Good evening, everyone. This is, yes, the Johnny Cleveland podcast. How is everybody? Yes, we haven't done one of these forever and thought it would be a good evening. Yes, it's the Tuesday after Martin Luther King Day. And we want to talk about Cleveland sports. That we're all about that here at the Johnny Cleveland podcast. And glad to have you aboard. Thank you for joining us. We are we're in the middle of waiting on dinner. So we thought, let's do our podcast now. So we've got lots of things to talk about. Man, like everything has happened in Cleveland, right? We have the Browns. Let's start with the bad news. Browns did not make it to the playoffs. The Browns had every opportunity this season to get there, and they didn't accomplish what they had set out to do. It was a disappointing season. Some folks out there are very disappointed, even trying to compare it to 2017 when the team went winless. So I don't quite put it as that. What happened in 2017 was bad, very bad, very depressing if you're a Browns fan. Going 8-9 is not as depressing as that. You know it. I know it. So 8-9 is not great, but we'll be back, right? We will be back. By the way, I am wearing not my Browns gear today. This is my UB gear. I got my New York UB. Go Bulls. Former team of my daughter Mariah, who's been on the show a few times. Mariah lives out there in Seattle, but she used to play for the University of Buffalo. Great women's basketball program led by Coach Jack up there in Buffalo. They are off to an amazing start. If you follow the MAC in basketball, currently they are sitting at 10 wins, 4 losses for the women. Not quite sure what the guys are doing right now, but the women's team is doing outstanding. They're on a roll. They beat Kent State, I believe, last night, 65-62. If you love college basketball, I would strongly urge you to check out the women's basketball program up there at UB. Had some great years there. Mariah did outstanding with that team. I will say that team in 2018 went 29-6. They made it to the Sweet 16. I always like to remind everybody that. They played South Carolina. Unfortunately, they lost. Asia Wilson played for South Carolina. Mariah had the tough task of guarding Asia Wilson during the game. Asia Wilson blocked her shot once. That was an interesting exchange of words during that game. That game, Sweet 16 game, was up in Albany, New York. What a wonderful event. The Connecticut women's basketball team was playing up there at the time. I believe UCLA was up there. So just a great event that happened prior to the pandemic. Obviously, the pandemic has changed all sorts of things for everybody. But back, let's talk a little bit more about the Cleveland Browns. So the Browns, they finished 8-9. A struggle, but they'll be back. Now, who will be back is another question. Baker Mayfield will be going on his last year of his rookie contract. He is due just south of $19 million next year to play for the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns and Andrew Berry, the general manager of the Browns, has reiterated this last week that he felt that Baker would be back, that he is their guy. But words don't always mean what they're going to do in action. Now, I fully expect Baker to be back, but there are some interesting possibilities. There have been different names of quarterbacks out there that could be available. We don't know, but we'll see. Baker is, what can we say about Baker? We've talked about it to death. Baker had an injury that he created because he decided to plow into a defender who had intercepted his pass in week 2, which is not a very smart move on a franchise quarterback's decision-making. The mental state of Baker Mayfield has continually made me cautious and worried about the long term of what Baker's going to be about for the Browns. Initially, I also contribute to the Dog Pound Daily, contribute to the King James Gospel, and also Cleveland Sports Talk. And in some of the articles I've previously written, I've talked about Baker being, let's give him that next contract Let's move forward with him. If you look at the track record of all the quarterbacks that have gone through Cleveland over the last 20 some years since they became a team again in 1999, having a quarterback like Baker Mayfield who has shown consistency for the most part would be something that I would move forward with. Can he get the Browns to a Super Bowl? A year ago when the Browns got to the playoffs, went 11-5, beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in the playoff game 48-37. By the way, the Steelers have given up over 90 points over their last 2 playoff games. Yes, that's right, 90 points. Way to go, Steelers, Squealers, whatever you want to be called. You're definitely not the Steel Curtain anymore. Have some of I still don't understand these Steeler fans, especially the ones who live here in Ohio. How can you be a Steeler fan and live in Ohio? Now, I live in Columbus, and I understand a little bit because of the geography that, Columbus is kind of, halfway between Cleveland and Cincinnati, and, Pittsburgh's 2.5 hours the other direction too. So it still doesn't make any sense to me. If you live in Ohio, you got to either be a Browns fan or a Bengals fan, and Bengals fans don't really exist. I mean, they like to say that they exist, but they really don't, right? Come on now. Now, I will say this before I continue talking about the Browns. What the Bengals are doing is really phenomenal. Jamar Chase, drafting him, a lot of people were cautious about what the Bengals did and thought, well, they weren't cautious. They thought it was a dumb move. Why didn't the Bengals pick up an offensive lineman to help protect Joe Burrow? Joe Burrow is doing outstanding. And, they picked up Jamar Chase, who was teammates with Joe Burrow down at LSU. And that connection is just phenomenal. And it's scary, folks, right? We all know it. If you're a Browns fan, you're going, oh my God, we're going to have to go up against that. Now, Browns, you and I both know this. We're 4-0 in the last 2 years against the Bengals. 3-0 against Joe Burrow. Nobody wants to talk about that. Everyone's giving Joe Burrow a pass and saying that he's the best. Well, he's great, but the Browns have beaten him. Do you remember Denzel Ward taking an interception, going back 99 yards? I sure do. So, all right, back to the Browns. So, speaking of Denzel Ward, so before we get to Denzel Ward, Baker Mayfield, I would say probably they're going to keep him. They're going to probably let him ride out the contract. Now, after he's done with the contract in his rookie year, do the Browns decide to franchise tag him? The Browns can franchise tag a player the following season. Would they do that to Baker and give them more time to negotiate and see what they really have in Mayfield? So, all right, Denzel Ward. Denzel Ward's in a similar position. I think Denzel Ward's due $13 million this next year in the last year of his contract. What are the Browns going to do with that? What are they doing right now? Are they doing anything? Are they talking? Are they negotiating? I haven't heard much. Have you heard anything? So that's another interesting, area. You would think, Browns had a pretty solid defense. Secondary really benefited, I believe. Denzel Ward's been, hurt a little bit here and there. Their new guy, Greg Newsome, the second, who's the rookie from Northwestern. Boy, you get a lot of great players from Northwestern. But Greg Newsome's been great. And, tag him along with, somebody like Greedy Williams and Denzel Ward, and you've got a pretty good cornerback situation there. Now, the safeties, 3 safeties, John Johnson III. What kind of pick was that? What did he do exactly this year? He did okay. You got Ronnie Harrison and MJ Stewart back there in the secondary too. Both are free agents. What are the Browns going to do with that? I've written about that a little bit in Dog Pound Daily. Check that out if you get a chance, dogpounddaily.com. And so I expect a little bit of what I talked about in my one previous article about that Ronnie Harrison and both MJ Stewart are looking to maybe leave. It would be advised if I was advising the Browns that they at least need to keep one of these guys. Really try hard to get him. A lot of people like MJ Stewart and like what he contributed at the end of the season, especially with all the COVID and the injuries. He stepped in and played different roles. You can throw him in at cornerback, you can throw him in at safety, and he produced. So those are all really good things. Now, you got other free agents on the Browns. I've written about this too. Had a really, if you get an opportunity to read this one, it was about 4 Browns who potentially could leave the team in free agency. One of the other guys I mentioned was the running back that the Browns have the luxury of having is D'Ernest Johnson, the fisherman from the Florida Keys. He went to the University of South Florida, and he had a pretty decent career in college. And the Browns didn't draft him, but they signed him to a initial contract. And because of that, and where he's situated right now, he's a restricted free agent. And so the Browns, he could look to go to another team, but the Browns will have a say in equaling or matching whatever offer he gets. The projections, according to some out there, suggest that D'Ernest Johnson could earn anywhere between $2 and $3 million this next contract a year. And he's earned it. I mean, every time they've put him in there, if it was the Denver Bronco game or the Bengals game, he produced. He got over 100 yards in both those games and was really outstanding. Now that adds another predicament, and I've talked a little bit about this in another article that's coming out later this week on Dog Pound Daily about trades. And one name I'm floating out there, and you might think I'm crazy, is Kareem Hunt. Now, Kareem Hunt is one of the outstanding backs for the Browns. We all know what he's done in the league. He led the league in rushing when he came out and played for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Browns have brought him into Cleveland. The kid is from Cleveland. He went to the university at Toledo, and now he's back in his hometown doing great things. But he's been injured. He missed 9 games this season. And the connection between Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt has been interesting, right? I mean, my thought, and maybe yours too, was when we saw that we had both, get them both on the field, it would be unstoppable. But the Browns have traded, possessions with these guys, have given, Chubb one series of drives, and then the following possession, they'll give Kareem Hunt the ball. Now, obviously, Kareem Hunt's been injured. They've been working in D'Ernest Johnson quite a bit more. Nick Chubb is climbing the leaderboard in Cleveland rushing history. Some people have even thrown out the idea of trading Nick Chubb. That's not going to happen. And the only reason I bring up Kareem Hunt is because he still has a contract. He's not going to be a free agent for a while. But the Browns could, if they decide to trade him, he has value. There are lots of teams out there like the Miami Dolphins, like the Houston Texans, that need a running game. They don't have a running game. I mean, Miami Dolphins, they picked up Duke Johnson. You guys remember Duke Johnson? Yeah, well, he was with the Houston Texans, and then Houston, the Texans are a basket case, they gave him to Miami. Well, no, Miami is a basket case. They got rid of their coach, which is crazy, Brian Flores. So they're a mess, but they need a running game. And the Dolphins have $70 million plus in cap space. That's a lot. 70 million. The Browns, I think, have about 37 million in cap space, which is a lot still. So just throwing it out there, could Kareem potentially be part of a trade? He has value to the Browns. What could the Browns get back in return? Draft picks for the future. That's all a possibility. So we will see what happens with that. All right. So talking trades, we're talking some guys that might leave. Kevin Stefanski, the Browns coach. I gotta admit, I was disappointed. Weren't you disappointed? I mean, coming into the season, 11 wins, 5 losses. Now, granted, Baker Mayfield's been injured, but some of the decisions that he's made throughout the season were very odd. Going for it all those multiple times on 4th down, looking at analytics and whatnot, and not having success. I mean, the 4th down plays when you have a broken quarterback who is getting sacked in the backfield just does not make any sense. And the team struggled. Stefanski and Baker Mayfield both need to get it back together. Hopefully they will as the season starts up next year. But the Browns, again, will have a lot to do before they get to that point. One other little note, a couple other veterans potentially that we need to pay attention to that you've talked about. Jarvis Landry, his big buddy Odell ran himself out of out of Cleveland because he was fed up and upset, and his dad got involved, and the world seemed to end. So Jarvis Landry stepped in, or has Jarvis didn't step in. Jarvis was very disappointed because his buddy left, and so now Jarvis he's not under free agency yet. He still has a year with the Browns. He's due $15 million. The Browns could release him and save $15 million in savings, in cap space. So we'll see what happens with Jarvis over this offseason. Interested. The other thing is we've got 3 tight ends that are all very good for the Browns. You got Harrison Bryant, you've got David Njoku, and Austin Hooper. Now, David Njoku is a free agent. He was paid $6 million this last year, and you've got Austin Hooper coming back. Now, Austin Hooper isn't a free agent yet, but the Browns could potentially save money if they were to release Austin Hooper in the long run. $9.5 million he's due. Harrison Bryant's not due anything close to that. Obviously, Harrison Bryant has only played 2 years in the league, but has had 2 decent years, caught over a couple hundred yards each, couple touchdowns. So my recommendation to the Browns would be that you keep Harrison Bryant, you look to the draft to then find maybe a potentially new tight end, and then what do you decide to do with David Njoku and Austin Hooper? I'm in favor of trying to re-sign David Njoku and potentially releasing Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper has struggled, folks. Look at the stats. You have the eye test. He had 787 yards his last season when he was with the Atlanta Falcons. Combined, he doesn't even have that. He has 780 yards combined over the last 2 years with the Browns, and he's only had 7 touchdowns compared to I think he has 6 now compared to 7 when he had last year with Atlanta. So I would suggest that maybe they try to do something with Hooper, release him, or trade him. All right, folks, that's enough on the Browns, right? But there's a lot to do, right? There's a lot to think about. The Browns need to get back to the playoffs. We are everyone's just, frustrated, and we want to move on. And the Browns want to move on, obviously. It's important the Browns really, though, look and see what were the issues there and try to get better. They need to improve on the defensive line. Obviously, you might have heard the news. Malik McDowell, the defensive lineman for the Browns, who the Browns gave an opportunity to come in. He's had a track record of having issues off the field. Those issues came back today or yesterday down in South Florida near Fort Lauderdale. Malik McDowell did some crazy stuff down there. I won't get into the details, but he was arrested by the police, and more than likely, he will be moving on. I believe he was a free agent anyway, but he won't be playing with the Browns ever again, and he may never play in the league again once after what happened. So that's a little disappointing. But the Browns are going to need to do some more things on the defensive line. The other big part of the defensive line is free agent Jadeveon Clowney. Clowney had a really good season, did he not? We all have to give props to Jadeveon Clowney. He came in, did some really good things. I think he finished with 9 sacks in the season, played opposite of his partner there, Myles Garrett, and really came to play. So that was impressive. That was impressive. And maybe the Browns, they paid him $7 million last year. Maybe they can get him back again next year. He'll need more money. He seems to like Cleveland. We'll have to see if Myles and his buddies on defense and the Browns coaching staff and Andrew Berry can wrap him up and bring him back to Cleveland. We all want him. I'd love to have him back. I think he makes a huge difference for this defense. All right, quickly, before we leave, and thank you for joining the program. This is the Johnny Cleveland podcast. You can, again, catch us on, on Facebook, on Twitter. We even are on Snapchat. No, we're not on Snapchat. What are we on? Can't think of it right now. But I'm glad you're watching on this stream. We're on YouTube as well, the Johnny Cleveland podcast. And so with that, let's switch gears and talk a little bit, just briefly, about, yes, the hot, very hot. We all know the Cleveland Cavaliers. Man, are they not fun to watch? They're fantastic. I write for the King James Gospel as well, and Cleveland Sports Talk, and wrote an article just recently about 3 big questions for the Cavs after they came back from their big road trip where they ended up going 5 wins and 1 loss. Fantastic way to end the road trip. And they even added to that yesterday afternoon in a matinee affair up there at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse when they took on the Brooklyn Nets, Kyrie Irving, Harden, and that crew, and just a really great game for the Cavs. The Cavs are battling back and forth with the Nets, who are number 2, I think, in the conference standings. The Cavs are coming in at number 6, and the Cavs played with them just back and forth and finally took control in that fourth quarter, played some outstanding defense. Darius Garland has just blossomed in front of us as far as, his play and how he's just learning how to play the point guard position. Has just been outstanding to watch. Just fun, entertaining. You add in the rookie, obviously, that's made a huge difference to the team, Evan Mobley. I've written about him multiple times for King James Gospel. He is a difference maker. He is the difference maker for this team. Obviously, you've got Jarrett Allen, who they picked up from Brooklyn in the past. He's been outstanding. Obviously, he's a walking double-double. You add in Lauri Markkanen, the kid from Chicago. They got 3 of these guys that can play. They start them. Markkanen can hit that outside 3-point shot, which is great. I don't like his defense. I have a vote for Dean Wade to get more playing time. Dean Wade comes off the bench. He has started 16 games for the Cavs this year. The kid's out of K-State, played with the team for a few years and really stepped in every time. I will always give kudos to Dean Wade. I think he needs some playing time right now. He's been on the bench. Have no idea why JB Bickerstaff is not playing him, but the team is rolling. He's not in the rotation. He's got other really good players. Cedi Osman, Kevin Love are all contributing big time. And so it's a lot of fun right now. Kevin Love, my gosh, isn't he seems inspired every game. So different from the past and how he was, the dragon through the years since, LeBron left the team. And that's the biggest thing right now, is that this isn't a LeBron. This team is all about who they are now. They're young. These kids, Darius Garland's 21, Evan Mobley's 20. Isaac Okoro is 21, 22. I mean, these kids are just kids. And it's fantastic because they are playing careless, just fun, hard-nosed basketball, and they stand at 27 and 18 on the season. Looking at the schedule coming up here in the future, too, one of the big things I took note of is they have a really long homestand coming up in March. They've got 10 or 12 games that are at home in March. So when you're talking about playoffs, they are setting themselves up for a great run. They're already, I think they moved up to number 4, number 5 in the league standings. So really good stuff. We're very excited about all of that. And go Cavs, right? Go Cavs. If you get an opportunity to go out and watch them, please try to do that. And let them know, right? Isn't that the slogan? Let them know. Let them know. Go Cavs. All right, folks. I hope you have enjoyed this brief but fun and entertaining Johnny Cleveland podcast. We hope to see you soon. We're going to be broadcasting more often. I know we kind of took a break of about a month, and just look forward to visiting with you. Hope to make this time entertaining, and you might learn a few things along the way. Everybody have a good evening. Take care, and remember to, that's right, keep smiling. Take care, everybody.